Specifically, I was talking about people that were just starting out to get to 75K a month. If you've been doing it for longer than that, you should probably be at a higher number. I'm about to break down the most simple way I've probably ever heard of. Maybe even my golden retriever would be able to accomplish. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, and he's not that smart. Let me tell you, he can barely sit when you tell him to sit.
Brandon, my dude, how are you doing?
Doing great. How are you?
Good. What's up, brother? I wanted to say thanks for taking the time and give you a quick introduction. You have been my second interview on my YouTube. I know you're gonna be posting too, doing a lot of cool content. I want to say my first interview, Sumit, good buddy, a good friend of mine, he now has 600 properties and is doing private equity. Since I met you a couple months ago, we've been talking for a while. I've watched you on Jerry Norton's show.
It's got to be the 70% less repairs is your buy number.
I've seen you do some amazing things and you've been helping me out a lot. I just want to say it's so awesome to have you here and get to talk to you and get to ask you some really cool questions.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to it. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man. So I wanted to talk to you, Brandon, because we were talking a lot about real estate and wholesaling and how it's not exactly what people think it is and how it's completely changed in 2025. But you have a very direct blueprint and method to not just make 10,000 a month, but you said much higher numbers. And I kind of wanted to talk about kind of your strategy and how you're doing over 10,000 a month, 75,000 and more some months on wholesaling and sometimes virtual, sometimes on premise. When did you talk a little more about that?
Yeah, well, specifically, I was talking about people that were just starting out to get to 75K a month. If you've been doing it for longer than that, you should probably be at a higher number. But one clear blueprint that I've seen recently, I mean, there's so many different ways. I mean, I met a guy in Colombia that's doing over 10 deals a month completely virtually just by hiring, Philippine cold callers. I've seen people do it on texting, but I'm about to break down the most simple way I've probably ever heard of that maybe even my golden retriever would be able to accomplish. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, and he's not that smart. Let me tell you, he can barely sit when you tell him to sit. So,
Dude, and that's insane though, because just talk about being able to start with little to no experience. I've been doing this for 7, 8 years now, and dude, I've learned so much just from. So I just want you to get into it, and I'll have more questions, man. I'm excited.
yeah, yeah, and of course, like. The method that I'm about to bring up, I always bring this up to people that are just starting out in real estate because you have to make it as simple as possible. The more complicated you make it, the more likely it is that someone's not going to follow through like on the plan. Now, once you get up to any sort of momentum, then you can start making it more complicated and implementing systems in your go high level account and all that kind of stuff. I always say it's like a freight train. When a freight
Yeah.
train is hasn't started, a wood chip on the front of it can prevent it from actually getting started. But the same freight train at full speed can break through a brick wall easily. So we're just gonna remove any sort of wood chip on the front of your freight train so we can actually build some momentum. But the simplest way that I know of, okay, now one qualification that you do have to have is you have to have a pulse, okay, and you have to be in the United States of America. I mean, but that's pretty much it. Which the method is to get 500 yard signs, okay, and
Yeah.
you don't even have to you don't even have to uh, uh, have the stakes and you like that you put in the sign and you don't even have to print them off. So like if that's too complicated for you to go on like the yard sign website and buy one that actually still says we buy houses on it, just order them blank. Okay. For 18 by 24, don't buy the yard signs. Um, and when they come in, this is what I did when I first started. I got a Sharpie, okay? And you write on there, we buy houses, cash, phone number at the bottom. Now, you might be thinking, Dominic, that who's going to call a yard sign on the side of the road that's handwritten? Because, I mean, it looks so unprofessional and it seems kind of
Yeah,
crazy that someone would sell the largest asset they've ever had in their life to someone that they found on a yard sign on the side of the road.
that's kind of crazy. Yeah, you wouldn't assume that.
Yeah, you wouldn't think that. It's sort of counterintuitive, but anyways, it was I so what I found was I was averaging about one deal per 250 signs, and the average deal size was about $25,000 per deal. I put out 500 signs. I think I got like two or three deals off that first 500. I remember I made about 75K off of those 500 signs. Um, and and one thing that sort of I never one thing I wish I would have been a little bit better at in the beginning was tracking my numbers to a T. All I knew was, I had a certain amount of money out and I was hoping to get a certain amount in. There's either money in the account or there wasn't, pretty much. But, there was two other guys I met recently that pretty much were implementing that same strategy. And what they're doing is they're just putting out 500 signs a month and they do 2 to 3 deals every single month. And they don't have a CRM, they don't have a Go High Level account. They're not YouTube influencers. That's all they do. They go and put these signs out and they make almost 75K on average a month. And another reason, Dominic, I always tell people to start with the yard signs is because you're not going to get a lot of calls from the yard signs, but the ones that you do get are at very high quality
Mhm.
versus like sometimes like when you're doing cold calling or you're doing texting or like that kind of thing, it really takes a lot of skill to get one of those cold calling leads from where they're at, like not knowing who you are, and they get called all the time to getting them to actually to the closing table. So
Mhm.
that's my blueprint to, making around 75K a month with, just starting out with really knowing nothing about wholesaling or having any sort of experience or anything like that.
Dude, that is phenomenal. That is nuts. I never heard it broken down so simple before. I know we talked about this briefly the other day. We were with my buddy Paul. He's interning under me. He's 18. He started his pressure wash company, and you told him that on the phone because I told him you did a little work with Jerry Norton back in the day, so he wanted to ask you questions. The next day, he hung up like 100 yard signs all throughout the city. I was driving by and I was seeing them. He started up his first office now, and he's doing pretty good. Now, that's what I need to do immediately now. I've only hung up I didn't realize bandit signs worked. But really anything works at quantity. So I've been doing a lot of calls, a lot of texts, and you're right, you got to work those leads. There's so much to work. They're so competitive. Everyone's getting called, everyone's getting texted. Um, I've only hung up about 50, 60 bandit signs, but I actually got lucky within those first 50, 60. Closed one deal as a wholesale and made 10 grand. So
Yeah,
I don't know
yeah,
why I didn't look at that and say, yo, just 10x this.
yeah.
But dude, that's gonna be exciting to try out because I hate dealing with a bunch of leads to have a couple close if you could get a couple calls. So how does that work? You hang up 500 and what, do people eventually take them down and you just got to re-hang them up, or you ask people if you could put them in their yard?
Well, they're yeah, just replace it with their Kamala Harris yard sign.
That's great.
But no, there's some strategies to it. So one guy that I met on Craigslist that was helping me put them out, he would have a pole with a clip on the end of it, and he would put it way up there where the code enforcement couldn't grab it. And then he had another pole with a slam stapler on it, and he would slam it up there. Uh,
No way.
yeah, really high, like 20 feet in the air. So those aren't coming down anytime soon.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah, but I mean, When I never even did that, like out of the 500 signs that I was referring to, all of the ones that I put out, they were just stuck in the ground, and most of them were taken up like the next day, or then by that Monday. I would always try to put the yard signs out on Friday night because the code enforcement didn't work over the weekend.
Oh, dude, that's slick.
Yeah,
You
dude,
have issues
bro.
with code enforcement, or they just take them out?
Oh, well, so at one point when I was like kind of putting out more and more bandit signs, I hired these crackheads uh on Craigslist to help me like put them out or whatever. And really what they would do is they put out like half of them and then they would dump the other half like in a river or whatever somewhere. And because I would find out because someone would be like, "Hey, all your signs they're not even out of the box. There's just a box of like signs. They didn't even take them out of the box.
Oh,
They're like in a dumpster like over here."
worse, man.
Yeah,
So
but
it's
they what was I saying with that? Yeah, they weren't, I mean, like those 500 signs, I didn't even do a good job of putting them out. You know what I mean? Like there was no strategy to it. Now I know a lot of like little things that can kind of increase the odds of like the signs being out for like longer or them being in more ideal places and that kind of thing. And it's sort of like a foolproof method of marketing. I mean, because the leads are so high quality when they come in, it's like you could smell bad, have a bad personality, just know nothing about real estate, and you could try not to get a deal, and you're still gonna get a deal under contract, even if you don't want it.
yeah, if you have good leads, you're working good
Yeah,
leads, that's all that really matters at the end of the day. So
yeah.
that's awesome. That kind of simplifies it. Like, yeah, you can get into mailers and other stuff later, but you're saying for beginners or just even advanced people, don't even focus on that. Just do band insides, get deals, and that's the easiest thing you could do right now in your market.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, there's a lot of different methods if you're trying to do, 10 plus deals a month, or you're trying to do like scale it to do it nationwide or whatever it is. But if you're just trying to get started and you just want to make like 75K a month, I mean, that's what I would do. I would just put out some yard signs. I mean, it's not that hard to make 75K
That's
a
great.
month.
No, I've heard some people having success, like kind of putting them on the borders between like good and bad areas,
Yeah.
right? Some
Yeah.
areas that might be appreciating kind of the lower income areas, but getting into those areas are good places where people might be likely to call to strike
Yeah.
for.
So I've done deals in all kinds of areas. Like I had one deal kind of recently, and it was in East Cobb, which is one of the more predominant areas in Atlanta. And the neighbor that was in was $1 million. All the houses were close to a million or way above $1 million in price range. And the guy that was in there, he bought the house like 20 years ago. He never did. He was like in sales or something,
Yeah.
he basically hey, his whole life was falling apart. His wife just left him. His dog just died, and like his car was being repoed out of the driveway. It was actually a referral. I knew his like next door neighbor, but his man, when one thing goes bad in your life, it seems like everything kind of seems to take that turn.
Yeah, that happens a lot when you're dealing with distressed people. You're finding deals. People have tough situations, and
Oh yeah.
nature of the game.
Well, and then to answer your question, like, so yes, I was just bringing that up to say, yes, there are deals like in even nice areas and stuff. People have distressed situations and that kind of thing. But as far as like the bandit signs go, like the real like metric of like where you want to put them is based on like how long they're likely to be up. Because if you can get them up in like so there's a Walmart parking lot, in Macon, Georgia, where I put up some signs. I got like three deals off that one parking lot because they never take up the signs. Versus like I put one up in this nice area, and when I was putting it in the ground, the manager's like running outside, being like, "You can't put those there."
That's great.
Yeah, it was like, Yeah, it was crazy. So, because I forgot, I looked up like the average traffic one Walmart parking lot gets in a in one day. It's like thousands and thousands of people. So, if you can get it up, it's just like how many eyeballs are gonna see it. So, if they're just taking it up, and a Walmart is a good area, oh man, they're not gonna let those things be up for more than a couple of hours, much
Yeah.
less even one day.
Huh. That's smart. Put them where all the people are out, where the traffic's out.
Now, one tip I will give you is if you go into a Lowe's, into a Home Depot, into a Sears that doesn't exist probably anymore,
Yeah.
into whatever, um, and you do not see any other signs, do not put your sign out there. Because the reason why there's no other signs is because they've grabbed all the other signs. But
Mhm.
yeah, dude, a bunch of people put out yard signs like roofers and people just doing yard, whatever it is. So I promise you, if you don't see any, it's not because no one else had this idea. It's because they're just grabbing them. Because the
Those
wall,
yard signs are in
yeah,
place.
yeah, and I always leave the yard signs out. Well, the crackheads I hired to put them out for me, they were yanking everyone else's up. I mean, I told them not to do that, but
That's
yeah, they came back with like a whole truckload of like other people's signs. Oh my God. I think they ripped up more people's signs than they put out my signs, but yeah.
that is hilarious. So, dude, that's great insight. And that's something that I'm gonna adopt right away and test out because that seems way easier than all these different text, color campaigns, heading out,
Yeah,
using different scripts, or even PPO. Like it will be good sometimes. Oh, there we go. That's light. It'll be
nice.
good sometimes. Sometimes it's not as good. Sometimes it gets expensive. It's market to market. But dude, I'm excited to get my first 500 signs. And you told me where to get them too before, right?
Yeah, there's a place called UZ Marketing and there's a place called dirtcheapsigns.com. That might be the same company. They might be doing business. I forgot, but I've definitely bought from both of those. Definitely get them online. I went to probably a dozen different places locally because I would rather purchase locally.
Yeah.
And they were not even remotely close. One guy, I showed him the quote online. He's like, nah. He's like, I can't even, because he was, he's like, I can't even, I'm not even competitive compared to that. Yeah, it was
So
super cheap.
500 yard signs, you're paying what, like $2 a sign?
Yeah,
Probably
yeah, you're
like
paying about two.
$1,000 and you're looking to close two deals at least.
Now, what I started doing was I stopped ordering the steaks and we're just tacking them on like trees and and phone
Yeah.
poles and that kind of thing, which I think is better anyways. And the steaks is half the cost. So you can get twice as many signs for
Wow.
yeah, for the you want me to give you one other tip about the yard signs?
Yeah.
All right, so all right, so if you don't even want to put the yard signs out yourself, right? This is how you do it. And this is how you avoid the mistake of hiring crackheads, like to put them out and they're just gonna dump them in like a in the trash or whatever. So there's a. Have you ever heard of Simple Crew?
Simple crew. No.
All right, so no
Oh,
worries. I'll explain it to you. So Simple Crew is an app where it basically you are the admin and then you add them as users. And what they do is they take a picture on the app of every sign that they put out and it pins it right where they're at. So there's no way that they can fake putting these signs out.
wow.
So actually, and I had the crackheads use that one time, and that I gave them like 100 signs or whatever,
Yeah.
and, and they put out like they on the app it said they put out like 20, which they did. And then they came back and they're like, "Yeah, we're ready to get paid or whatever." Well, I was like, "Well, in the app it says you only put out 20." And they're like, "Oh, yeah, the app. We didn't even like really know how to use that, so we just kept going." And then sure enough, I was like, I don't know, they looked like they were gonna kill me or something if I didn't like pay them because they probably go go buy some crack rock or whatever. But
Yeah.
so I went ahead and paid them, and then the next day someone called me like, like 80 of your signs are. We just found a box of your signs like on the side of the road, so I was just letting you know you're littering or whatever. But yeah, so so I made it very clear, like every person I would hire to do that, I'm like, if you do not use the app, you're not getting paid. So so there's some sort of like glitch in the system in the matrix. Like just
You
stop what you're doing.
automated you automated the whole system to make 75K a month
Yep.
in a short time frame.
Yep.
That's beautiful. And now you're primarily wholesaling these deals when you get them. Um,
Correct.
I like a lot of creative finance deals. I wanted to talk to you about creative finance because I know you got a hot take on it. What do you think of creative finance real estate?
In regards to like doing like a subject to deal or something like that.
Yeah, I'm kind of getting burned on my first round now because I learn it.
Whoa.
But
Well, okay. So I actually had a very similar experience to what you had. And I almost got screwed on like a subject to deal because what I didn't realize is like so there's a bunch of problems that no one really talks about when it comes to buying a subject to property. And I've heard so many people get burned so freaking hard, but no one brings it up like in any of these chats. Because, well, probably because 99% of people are not even doing deals that are in these Facebook groups and things like that.
yeah,
But I'll tell you this. So I was about to buy this subject to property. And so I told the attorney that I was like, hey, I'm just really looking to buy the property subject to the mortgage, not subject to all liens or to whatever. And we're about to close on it. And I forgot if I was just smart enough to ask him for this or somehow I came across the current mortgage statement. Bro, they were like $60,000 behind on their payments on the mortgage. And the attorney didn't even check. Like he didn't check anything because as soon as the attorney hears that you're buying it like subject to a mortgage or whatever, they're thinking like, oh, okay, I'm not selling title insurance, so I don't care. I'm basically just making a deed for you and I'm just closing it. So I didn't really realize that that was the attorney's like mindset on the whole thing.
mhm.
So I came because I thought he was kind of like protecting me in the deal and stuff, and he weren't really doing shit. So yeah, but what was your
Yeah,
situation?
similar situation. Some of these attorneys like don't really care about your interests. They just start doing the paperwork or whatever they think. So I was doing a subject to deal. I assumed I was stopping a foreclosure. I had to pay 30 grand to stop the foreclosure, several other thousand for a couple liens. But the liens weren't too much. They were sub 30,000, and then there was another $65,000 loan. He did a title search. Everything was fine. Um, didn't give me title insurance, and he gave me a quick claim deed because nature of the deal. But I went to him. This was 25 deals ago. This was um, I'm only at about 52 deals for myself. I'm not mainly doing wholesale, mainly doing rentals, creative deals. But I'm doing wholesaling like on the side to get cash flow and or generate more. But this was something I was living in. We're gonna fix up living. But after I sent the wire, a Medicaid lien showed up for 416,000.
Oh
And
my God.
yeah, they
Huh.
just didn't do another title search, and I guess it was just a very unfortunate situation, and we're dealing with that right now. So can't sell the house because there's a 400K lien on the house.
Yeah, yeah, that's crazy.
There prior to the title search. So, moral is
Yeah.
get in title insurance. I think most of the time you have to do quick claim deeds on subject twos, but regardless, get title insurance. Find an attorney that wants to help you, and that you could trust because a lot aren't necessarily looking to help you.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with that. Yeah, because a lot of people don't realize that they can still buy title insurance and whatever liens are current on the property, they just write that out of the policy. So that's all it is. So, but yeah, you definitely want to get it. Just, and another reason why you want to get it, from my experience, was as well, was because it involves the title company, because they're the ones that are checking on the liens. They're the ones that are making sure there's nothing else. The attorney, people don't realize the attorney's not doing shit most of the time. Like it just gets sent over from the insurance company, and they say, "Hey, we need all these things resolved. This is what we're insuring. We're not insuring these things." And they give it to their paralegal. Their paralegal coordinates like getting the payoffs and all that kind of stuff. And the attorney has like no idea what the flip's going on. And he comes in at the last minute and basically points and tells you where to sign. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So so I was under the same false impression that they were there to like, protect you and like make sure everything's like going smooth and
No,
all
that's
that.
why you got to learn it yourself. And it's good to have people in the industry you could ask questions to and learn from. Because, yeah,
Yeah, dude,
learn.
you want me to tell you about another problem you may not have heard about with the subject to property?
What's that?
Okay, so oh man, and I've asked a bunch of people. I asked Pace Morby's partner that's at his like his right hand man that he owns like half of his properties with. I've asked so many people what his solution to this is, and there's no good solution that anyone has had. I mean, some they've had solutions, but in my opinion, they were not good enough solutions.
Yeah.
Which is okay. So when you take over the mortgage, right?
Yeah.
You have an underlying insurance that's tied into escrow on that mortgage, right? So then,
Mhm.
okay, let's say you take that over, then you wrap it to another buyer. Well, my attorney at closing told the buyers, so I own it, and then I marketed. I found an end buyer to wrap it to, right?
Yeah.
So the end buyer that we wrapped the mortgage to, the attorney told them, which this was not correct, is that they should go out and get their own insurance because the insurance on the underlying mortgage is not going to cover them. So they went and got their own insurance. But what we did not know, including the real estate attorney, is that's called insurance stacking. So if your house were to burn down or a tree like falls on top of it or whatever, both insurances are not going to pay out equally. I mean, they are going to pay out like so they're only insuring like so. For example, the underlying insurance on the mortgage is going to pay out, but then the other mortgage that the homeowner, the person who wrapped it, they have another insurance on it, right? But they're not going to get a full payout because they're going to say you stack the insurance on the house, and then those two insurances are going to come together on an agreement, and they're only going to pay out the value of the house. So you're in a very sticky situation if your house burns down in that scenario.
Really?
Yes.
So, okay, I got another house I just did this to last week. Took over the mortgage.
Mhm.
Deeds in her name. I'm gonna assume the mortgage because it's FHA. All FHA and VA loans are assumable. So, I have 6 months before US Bank will let me assume it. But the insurance is currently in her name, right? Because
Yeah.
I'm on the mortgage. So I got a secondary mortgage with me as the primary insurance and her on it.
Yeah.
I haven't swapped them over though yet because I'm insurance stacking right now, you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
your insurance tax. So
what,
what would
she's gonna
happen?
get half and I get half?
So the two insurances would come together and agree on what insurance is going to pay out how much, but it's only going to be like what the house is worth total.
Not the build value.
Well, whatever the appraisal is, I'm just saying one insurance isn't going to pay out three. If the house is worth 300
Oh,
grand,
you're not gonna get double insurance. You're just gonna
yeah,
get insurance. But
correct.
if it's just in her name, now I'm not insured because if the house burns, then she gets the money, right? What if she doesn't want to?
Well, okay, so you can put yourself as a secondary on the mortgage. Is that what I mean on the insurance? Is that what you're saying you were doing?
Yeah.
Uh,
Well,
so you're on this, you put yourself on her insurance, correct?
no, I got a secondary insurance and I was going to try to swap them, which is
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what the best thing to do is, which isn't even the best. I mean, it's not like 100%, concrete, but
yeah.
the best thing to do is instead of getting a separate policy, because that doesn't really like do anything, put yourself as a secondary on her insurance. Get listed on that insurance, and then get a limited power of attorney, and then switch the address that's on the insurance like payout or whatever. So let's say the house burns down, right? And
Yeah.
the insurance issues a check. Well, it's going to have your name on it and it's going to have her name on it because you're a secondary on the mortgage, right? So
Yeah.
if you have the limited power of attorney, you can go to the bank and cash that check without her involvement.
And that's something I probably should have did before I closed, right?
Well, you can do it now. I mean, but yeah,
Just
you should have done
find
that
out
before.
our attorney.
Yeah, I have a checklist of everything that you need on a subject to deal if you,
Really?
yeah.
Dude, this is great, and this is why people need to watch your content and learn before. I mean, it's good to just get after it and just get action, like put down the 500-yard times and just get after it. But then once you get some leads, dude, talk to you, someone like you, and get that knowledge on how to close these deals the right way. Because once you break it down, there is a little bit more, but to
There
simplify
is.
it, do whatever you got to do to get good deals, and then you can kind of learn from there. But that's great info. I need to set that up. Um,
Yeah, yeah, it's kind of crazy because I mean, I only have so many of I still have some subject to properties that I wrapped currently in my portfolio, but I mean, I've had a lot of problems like with them and stuff. So I couldn't imagine being like Pace Morby and having like hundreds or thousands of students and
Yes.
all of them having like a lot of issues. Oh man, I bet that he's probably very stressed out.
Wow.
Because that's crazy. Because dude,
Something that
every
you run into later too. It's like you get the deal, you're happy, and then you're like not there's not an issue until you find out or until something.
yeah. You want me to tell you something else that you might hear that's a good idea, that's a freaking terrible idea that'll put you in a complete nightmare situation on a subject to property? Is is letting a loan servicing company involved in the payment like handling the payments and stuff because that's one thing that he was saying to do is get a loan servicing company. So you bought the subject to property, right? Then you wrap the mortgage. Now you take that mortgage and give it to a loan servicing company, and they're the ones that call your customer and get the payment and all that kind of stuff. The problem is that the loan servicing company is they don't have direct access to pay the original mortgage. So let's say you have a mortgage that you took over for 1,500, right? And you sold it for 300, I mean $3,000 a month. So the loan servicing company would collect the 3,000 from the wrap buyer
Yeah.
and they would pay the underlying mortgage and they would send you the remaining amount, the 1,500. And if they're late, they'll call them. So it sounds all great and everything. Oh man, it is not great.
You have
It's
to have be like an authorized use.
well, okay, so this is their method of like, well, I don't know, maybe it was just like the place I got, but I wouldn't do it anyways because I don't think it's a very good setup. Which is so for them to pay the mortgage, what they were doing is they would write a check to the to the mortgage company and they would send the check in. But if that check was off by like a penny, the mortgage company wouldn't accept it, and then the mortgage wasn't getting paid, and then the original seller's calling me because like, this credit is being hit, and it's like this big like debacle. And then another thing is is when you get involved in one of those debt or loan servicing companies. Oh man, you can't just cancel like you're canceling your Netflix subscription. You are like in a contract with them, and it was
Probably
terrible.
making a kickback from who's ever he's sponsoring.
Yeah. Oh, 100%, dude. I mean, bro, he has this lawyer that's in North Carolina, Pace Morby does. I
Yeah.
mean, not gonna mention his name or whatever, but he is a freaking loser, dude. Like, dude,
Dude.
this guy, and you saw like a picture of him. He's just like wearing like socks and sandals, like real sloppy, like just
So, virtual real estate wholesaling, everyone's been looking into it. It's a hot take on social media, but I wanted to talk to you about making deals from anywhere in the world. Like, how realistic is it? And what do you have to do if you want to be virtually wholesaling?
well, virtual wholesaling is how I got started. That's how I did almost all of my deals initially, was virtually. It's definitely doable, but there are some downsides that I didn't realize at first when I started doing it that way, which there's a lot of issues sometimes that pop up down the road, especially when you're trying to sell the deal, that it's a whole lot easier to manage those issues if you have someone there in person. And if you're just getting started or if you're just doing a few deals a month, you are that person. You are the person that's got to step in. So I would say if you are going to do it virtually, the acquisitions person can be virtual, but the person that you're partnered with or the person that you're hired or whoever needs to be in that, at least in that state.
Yeah.
Because I've had some situations where I mean, even if we were 4 hours away from the house, at least we could get to the house to resolve the situation. But if you're on the other side of the country or you're in a different country and you don't have like one of your team members in that area, it's very, very difficult. Another, another kind of problem with like trying to do it virtually, it really kind of depends on what kind of lead source you have. Because if you're, from my experience, trying to lock up a competitive lead source like cold calling or texting leads virtually is very, very difficult. Because as soon as you send them the contract, they're like, "Oh yeah, I'm going on there right now. I'm about to sign. All right, I'm about to click." And I mean, they act like they're just on the verge of like clicking that sign button, but then they're like, "Yes," but then they don't sign, and then it rolls into the next day, and then you're not there in person to kind of help them through it, so they want to talk to their uncle and their brother-in-law and the tooth fairy or the Easter bunny or whoever it is that they're, talking to. Um, and there's also like a trust factor, I guess, with the whole thing. Because in particular, in my opinion, because I used to run like my whole business off cold calling leads and texting leads, and I would say they're one of the most difficult leads to actually convert over to an actual contract. And they have the longest time to close from like you getting the lead to actually getting to the closing table. So, what I would recommend if you are going to do it virtually is to run an online funnel and set it up on Go High Level and have them go to a landing page because that's how I was doing all mine. And I didn't have a funnel, I just had a landing page. They would go on the landing page and it was kind of funny because like I think there was like another company that had like a similar name to my company, and they were running like radio ads and commercials and all this stuff. So people would be like, "Oh yes, sir, yeah, we've been seeing your ads like every day, and you guys are so trustworthy and everything. So we really like appreciate it, and you guys did a great job and all this." But there's definitely a factor of trust when they can see a video of you and they can see your Better Business Bureau like reviews and stuff like that, that because you got to get them up to a certain level of trust through other avenues if you're not going to be there in person to have them sign the contract. I mean, the most effective way to get them to sign is you being in there in person. That
Yeah.
that really has the highest closing rate of any option that I know of. But if you can get like a lot of traffic going into your to your sales funnel, it really doesn't matter. I had one kid I met. I had a house listed on Zillow, and he called me. He was like 19 or like 20 or something like that at the age, and he was dude, he was like he came up with like the totally like wrong offer like on the house because I think I bought the house for 90 and I was trying to sell it for like 160 and I was already getting offers from like investors at like 130, 140, like that kind of thing. And he offered me like 50 grand. He offered me half the amount that I was able to get it for. And it was very obvious that he was a wholesaler, like right off the bat, just like you can kind of just tell by like the way that he was talking and that whole thing. So I was always take the opportunity like to talk to the wholesalers and stuff if I come across one, try to help them out or whatever. You never know down the line. So anyways, um, we sort of became like friends, and we started doing. I was helping him do wholesale deals virtually in New York, where he lived. So I was kind of like his. See, we did it in reverse though. We should have done it the other way. He should have been uh, doing the acquisitions virtually, and I should have been doing the dispositions in person because most of the problems where you have to show up in person are on the dispo side, like the tenants not moving out. I've had to show up at properties because the house is going to be sold on that Tuesday, and I need to get everyone out of the house. The tenants are renting it out by the room, and I show up with a moving truck and some amigos, and like we're booking everyone out of there. We're giving everyone $1,000 or whatever, and we're like, hey, you can go wherever you want, but it can't be here. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. so,
Right.
so, so that was Oh, and by the way, that guy, he now does over $150,000 in assignments every month consistently, sometimes over $200,000 in assignments. And he does the same thing. All he does is have a web page. He spends like 10 grand a month on Google ads. And he spends like another, no, actually 15 grand a month on Google ads and he just started spending another $10,000 a month on Facebook ads. And he does it nationwide. So but you have to have a very strong like lead source that builds credibility and trust and stuff. I mean, I'm just speaking from my own experience. I do know that there are people out there that have cold calling teams and they do it virtually and all that kind of stuff. I just have found that that is extremely difficult to get those contracts locked up over a cold calling lead. And the average cold
Yeah.
calling lead to getting a contract signed, if you're good, is like 1 to 30. So that's
Yeah.
30 conversations and 30 different,
Well, I was gonna
people.
say that. Which I was happy. I was thrilled when I found out that you could get deals
Yeah.
from. Dude, I'd hire people from Egypt, spend 1,000 a month. They'd hit like 15,000 calls. I would have to get like 3,000 calls to get 30 appointments, 100 calls per appointment. I got to talk to 20 to 30 people to try to close one deal. Maybe lock up 5 contracts and then close one deal from it. Which, yeah, you're talking to 30 people, which starting off, I was like, this is great. I'm getting leads. But then you get into PPL and you're like, well, the quality is much higher. I only have to take 5 or 10 calls. And then the bandit signs, I'm excited to see how this turns out. It's like we're just getting simpler, but things are just working out better.
Yeah, yeah. I remember like when I first started, the Philippines was the big thing, like hiring cold callers in the Philippines. And then I think it was like 2022 or 2023, people started using the Egyptian cold callers, which I mean, if they can build the pyramids, they can they can do.
Oh, they rip things, man.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
sure
you
they
have to
can
do a lot
figure that.
more work on them, and you talk to these sellers, and they're getting called from everyone. And
Yeah.
even I'll get calls and texts and get annoyed about it. So like you have to sell yourself against all the other out of state buyers or other buyers, and you're still losing some of them. So uh,
Yeah, yeah, no, exactly. I mean, so the whole way that I was doing the cold calling and converting the leads to actual contracts was we were pitching offers over the phone. So I built a custom chat GBT and I had the cold callers on that chat. And what they could do was they could just paste the address to the property and it would pull the data from three different websites. I think it was Redfin, Zillow, and like Realtor.com. All of the you have like the estimate or the Redfin estimate, take an average of that, and then it would just do the little like calculation or whatever, like 65% of that average, and that would be the offer amount because we just wanted to throw an offer amount out because we it's really hard to tell if someone's interested in a low ball offer, and a lot of people will tell you like find out how much, find out their why and find out this. Listen, the what we're doing is we're trying to figure out if they want to accept a low ball offer. If you want to see if they're interested in that, make them the low ball offer and see if they are interested. Don't be a psychologist and talk to them for 3.5 hours on the phone to see if they're motivated. Like, just see, like, hey, you want to take a low ball cash offer? Like, here's 10 grand and see how they react. One thing that I got from Jerry Norton that is really good advice is you don't make the offer to see if they're interested. I mean, to get a contract. You make the offer to check their temperature. Because you
yeah,
can just make the offer and find out if they're motivated like in 2 seconds versus talking to them and playing 21 questions and trying to figure out if they're motivated or not. So I had all my cold callers set up on ChatGPT where they could just throw the offer out. Now that wasn't our final number or anything, but we were always like within a pretty good amount of that estimate.
yeah,
So
dude.
so they were making the offers, and then when the leads were coming in, they were super qualified because they basically have already accepted a low ball cash offer verbally. And then
Yeah, you,
yep.
there you get leads that like are like I want $1 million, and you're like not even calling them, and then
Oh
you get
man.
sell their house for like 30K, 50K. It's like screaming hot before you even call them.
Well, another problem is that okay, so you have the cold caller, right? They're
Yeah.
talking and then they're being passed to you. So let's say 100 of those get passed to you and you call all those people back. You think you're going to get 100 people back on the phone? No. You're going to get a certain percentage of those people back on the phone. So that's why I condense those two things into one phone call. We make the offer because that's the whole second phone call was just to make an offer, just to see if they're interested in a low call ball cash offer.
To offer first round.
Yeah, offer on the first round. Like even if it's not going to be a perfect offer or whatever, but the more offers you make, the more contracts you're going to get, and the more.
Something I learned too from one of my previous mentors is
Hold on one second.
yeah, all good.
Yeah, sorry about
Everything all
that.
good?
Yeah, someone's banging on the doors. It's a package. We have this service that delivers packages at night, basically.
Uh no, I was just gonna say, yeah. Took me a while to learn that, but basically real estate, you want to be like you got to be looking at a lot of deals. but I was like scared to make lowball offers until I heard one of my mentors say, "Hey, you just got to like give everybody an offer, and you might feel uncomfortable, but the more offers you give out, you never know when someone's going to take that, and that's what happens a lot of times. You'll give an offer, be scared they're not going to take it, and they're like, "Oh, thank you, yeah, I'd love." And it's a numbers game, so you throw out enough lowball offers, you throw out 20 lowball offers to people trying to sell their house, one of them will accept it. And if you have a 10, 20K margin, that's a business. That's what this is
Oh,
kind
oh yeah, bro. 100%. Dude, I'll tell you a really quick story about in regards to that. So I had a couple when I first started, I had a couple of deals that kind of fell apart because I had them under contract for way too much and I wasn't able to sell them. And that's really very devastating because like you are so excited, you have it under contract and you think you've hit the lottery and, and whatnot. And then it just all just gets taken away because they just fall apart one by one. But anyways, so I got so frustrated after like five of my contracts like didn't go through, and on the next one, I kind of partnered up with someone else, and on the next deal, next lead I got, these people called. They're out. This lead was the house is out in the middle of nowhere. It's in Washington, Georgia, uh, which most people never even heard of that have lived in Georgia their entire life. So it's out in the middle of nowhere. They sounded like they were foreign, and they said that they were going to be moving out of the country. So they wanted to sell the house. And what they told me was is that the house had just been appraised for $65,000 and that they might take a little bit less than that amount, but they probably weren't. I'd have to get real close to that amount in order to, make a deal happen and that kind of thing. They might do like 60,000, the appraisal 65 or whatever. So so I was like, oh, screw this. I was like, I don't give a rip. Like, what? I'm gonna do my little like 70% minus the repairs and do my little chart and whatever that comes out to be, I'm just making the freaking offer because I was so tired of like deals falling apart because we had them under contract for too much. Because there's so much effort and energy and everything that you put into a deal for it just to fall apart at the last minute. So, anyways,
of,
so they said it had been appraised for 65,000, as is appraisal, by the way. So I went through, I crunched the numbers and everything, and I made them an offer. I was like, man, what we can do here is $8,000. Okay, it's, it's like we can do $8,000 because according to the numbers I just ran with like my box of crayons and my little sheet that I got off of a YouTube video, we can do $8,000. Like that's maximum amount of money that I'm going to be able to do on this. So it was so, dude, I'll never forget this. So there's a long pause. There's a long pause. She was like, well, she's like, could you do 10,000?
uh,
And
like they want a little bit more.
yeah, I was like, no, 8,000. That's it.
Oh, firm.
Well, I mean, if they already came down that much, I mean, they're already coming down another 2 grand.
Dude, yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I ended up wholesaling it virtually. Found someone, a local buyer to the area. And it was just like this little brick house. I mean, it was a little fix and flipper. But
Yeah.
that just goes to your point of you just have to make the offer. Like don't like it is what it is. Like this is what we can offer. Like you either take it or leave it. It's all a numbers game. Even if you suck, if you keep making enough offers. Now, I will say this though. It is a numbers game, but the lower your offers are, like the more of a discount that you're giving, the less contracts you're going to get accepted. So, like for example, I was working with these wholesalers like last year, and we were getting one out of like 150 offers accepted, like verbal offers. But our average deal size was over 50 grand. So so what we should see that's another thing. Sometimes your average deal size can be too high. That means you're missing a lot of all the deals between $5,000 and $50,000. And there's not many that are over 50,000. So that's why we were getting over, 150 offers to one accepted. Um, you got to like really play with the discount amount of it to where I like to hover around like a $25,000 average assignment. I could adjust it to where my average was lower and we could do more deals. But the lower the amount of money that you make, also the higher the difficulty level is. Because if one thing goes wrong, you got to be real creative to be able to save the deal. But if you got a $50,000 deal and something goes wrong, you can just solve it with money.
Yeah, dude, that's valid. Dude, that's great info. Golden gem. This is what people got to do to get into real estate.
Yes, sir.
Dude, I appreciate it, man. This is awesome. We got to do this more often. I'm about to get 500 yard signs, blow up my market, and then I want to come do some deals with you out in Atlanta, bro.
Yeah, dude, let's do it.
Yeah, dude, this is great. Brandon, I appreciate it, man. Let's do this again, dude.
Yeah, man. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
We'll hop on. We'll get the home genie on next time. And yeah, maybe we do some live deals sometime.